Good morning. Good morning. So glad you're here today. I'm Kimberly Borgens. For those of you who don't know me, welcome to the Hive Society. This is a Facebook group where my goal is to just share information with you all about hints, tips, ideas, wisdom. I call this my wisdom highlight time. You know, all this gray hair came from different wisdom learning lessons, different, knockdowns and getting back up and, perceived mistakes and failures and all of those things. These are my wisdom highlights. So anyway, so glad that you are here to join me. I wanted to talk about today here in the Hive Society, mastering the art of communication. Now, I'll admit, I am not a complete expert at this, but I've been communicating a long time, and not just at home with my spouse, with my kids, with my businesses, my community, just different things. How do you master the art of communication? So that's what we're going to talk about today. So I hope that you will join in. So let's see, what's the first thing that you want to know about communication? Well, there's lots of different kinds of communication. So I was talking to one of my staff this week, and we were talking about communication and that the importance of having the right communication with people. It really is important. See, communication is this little thing that we all do. We all talk around. We send emails, we send texts, we, do verbal communication, we do nonverbal communication, we do visual communication. There's so many different styles of communication. So with that being said, that's what I'm going to talk about today. So let's see, what's about, when I was talking to her, it was really important because she was the kind of person who communicates just enough to get by, not enough to where the person that she's communicating to completely understands her. And I think that's one of the key things when it comes to communication. Communication isn't really communication if the other person doesn't understand what you're saying. There's so many things that are misinterpreted, misread, miscommunicated because you chose to communicate in a way that works for you, but it may not work for somebody else. So it's really important for you to pay attention to that. It really, really is key. And I think what happens a lot of times is we're just so used to communicating our way that the receiver doesn't really get it. They're not experiencing what it is we really wanted to say. And that's where miscommunication, and that's where frustration and arguments and disagreements and, whatever else can come from it, right? So you have to remember that when you're communicating with people, here's a huge key, is that you ask them to, relay back to you what it is that they understood from you. Because so often, way back in, 200 years ago, maybe, people would say a word and they all understood that word. Today, I can say one word and it's interpreted multiple different ways, right? It's no longer just a word, it's a meaning based on what other people say. So, how other people feel about that word, if they're triggered, if they're, excited, if they love that word, it just comes into play so often because we all have our own interpretation. So if there's nothing you take from today's training today here on the Hive Society, take that away, is that you have to make sure that when you're communicating with people, that they, as the receiver, understand exactly what it is that you're trying to say. So let's talk about some of these things. So different styles of communication. So there's the verbal communication, what we say, how we say it, what's our inflection of our tone, right? What, where do we putting the emphasis, right? There's that verbal communication. Well, when I was talking to my my staff at the office, one of the things that we talked about is I'm like, that you speak very loud with your nonverbal communication. And she's like, what? I said, when you sigh, when you kind of like, it speaks clearly that something that you're frustrated about something, she goes, oh, I can't hide anything. I'm like, right. And so people understand that, but then you're saying one thing and it's not matching what your nonverbal communication is saying, right? So it creates miscommunication. And she's like, oh man, okay, I understand that. And so we really worked through that with her. But know that there's verbal and there's nonverbal communication. And I know there's percentages out there, and you know what? I didn't look them up. If you want to know what the percentages are, go look them up. I just know for me personally, like nonverbal speaks so loudly, right? And verbal communication is less because of the words and the interpretations. But there's also, think about like some people are very auditory. They want to hear things, and some people want to see things, and some people want to experience the things for them to be able to understand it, right? So you have to make sure that the person who's receiving it is clear on your communication. I know I've said that at least 20 times already, but it really is one of the most important things that you have to do, right? We're communicating over email. We're communicating over text. We're communicating via videos, right? We're communicating, in any way. It could be, a billboard, it could be skywriting, and it's still a form of communication. And so it really is important that you know what kind of communication works best. So a lot of times when I work with my clients, I'll ask them like, how do you want to, stay in communication? Do you want to do email? Do you want to do text? Do you want me to leave voicemails? Whatever that is, right? So find out from your customers, your clients, the best people that you work with, like how do they want to be communicated to, right? Because a lot of times I used to just like send an email and I wouldn't get a response. So I'd have to send a text, and that's me doing double duty. But if I ask them ahead of time, guess what? I have the answer and there's no guessing. So that's a wonderful way to do communication. All right. And part of communication, I really wanted to talk about some of the things that happen in communication around feedback. So critics are a dime a dozen. Okay. Nobody gets paid for it. Well, there's some critics who get paid, and that's because they've built credibility, right? They've built credibility as a critic. But we have keyboard warriors. There are critics everywhere. Just do a Facebook post and ask for advice, and I guarantee you get more responses to advice than you will to something that you want them to like or comment on. So advice, being critical, giving constructive criticism, it's all feedback, okay? And as the giver of feedback, you have to pay attention to what is your intent. Is your intent to hurt? Is your intent to lift people up? Is your intent to help them grow? Is your intent to make them a better person? What is your intent when it comes to giving feedback? If it's not going to serve them, then leave it alone. You don't need to give it, right? In this day and age, everybody's like being inundated with feedback from everybody, feedback in social and feedback on their emails. And you could have said this better. And why are you yelling at me on text? And like, no, I'm emphasizing. That's why I put it in caps. I'm not yelling, I'm emphasizing, right? Like everything can be misconstrued. So if it's not going to serve somebody, then just leave it alone. I grew up with that one of those golden rules of if you can't say anything nice, don't say anything at all. And when you think of feedback, that really is the best rule of thumb. Okay. But if you're going to give somebody feedback because you want to help encourage them, you want to help move them forward, you want to inspire them, you want to help make something work, as a coach, I'm giving my clients feedback all the time, but I'm never giving them feedback to knock them down. I'm always giving feedback to support them in moving forward, right? My experience of you is This is what's going on. How can we get past that? Right? I gave somebody some feedback one time and I said, look, do you mind? Can I just share with you just an observation I have? And they said, sure. And I said, I know the lipstick color that you're wearing, like it just doesn't match your skin. And of course you can continue wearing it if it makes you feel joy and all of that. But I'm just letting you know that it just kind of like puts you in a bad light. She goes, well, I really love this color and I'm going to keep doing it. I'm like, that's awesome. Right? It wasn't that my intent was to make her stop using it. I just wanted her to be aware of how it looked with her. I was like, you know what? How does that make you feel? How does that lipstick make you feel? That's the first question I asked after that point, right? It's like, if it makes them feel great, just go with it. Like, I don't care, right? So I had to course correct my own feedback. So, just know that when you're giving feedback, you want to give feedback that is helping people move forward. It's with the intent to, support and help out, not the intent to knock somebody down. And if it is, then, that's about you. So leave them alone. That's what I'm saying. Just leave them alone. Right. But feedback, there's great feedback in the world. I had a mentor, Brian Clemmer. He used to say, I eat feedback for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And what he meant by that is he's willing to hear the feedback, willing to take the feedback that somebody has to offer you. Be willing. But here's the thing. When somebody gives you feedback, you don't have to take it. You can take a look at yourself and say, does that apply to me? No, that doesn't apply to me. Not really. That's not going to serve me. But thank you so much. You don't even have to tell them. All you have to do is say thank you and then make a choice afterwards. And don't let somebody's feedback knock you down. Okay, just be clear. Don't let somebody's feedback knock you down. It's not worth it. Okay, somebody's feedback, if somebody gives you feedback that's negative, just check in with yourself. And you go, is that me? Was that my intent? Was that how I want to be? Is that how I want to be seen? And if the answer to all of those are no, like, okay, thanks for your feedback, and move on. If somebody tells you you're a terrible businesswoman, look at the source. That's the first thing I'm going to say. Okay, look at the source. I heard a quote. I don't know whose quote this is, but here's the reality of it. There's a lot of room at the top, ladies. And when people are trying to knock you down, it's because they want to try to get above you, right? There's a lot of room at the top, right? The bottom is crowded. So keep working yourself up. Don't let somebody's feedback knock you down. You course correct if needed, and then you keep moving forward. You just need to stay up. You just need to continue going up. And if somebody gives you feedback and it's really devastating to you, or it's very hurtful or whatever, then call a friend and say, hey, can you tell me something that you love about me? Something that you see that I do well. Because I just got some negative something, and I just want to get past it. Don't let somebody's negative feedback create a bad day for you, make you make bad decisions because of it. Find somebody else who can give you the positive feedback, because there's a lot of us, right? There's a lot of us who'd be happy to do that for you. My goal in business is to lift people up. When I am coaching and consulting and working with my clients, it is my goal to help them move forward. Will I call them out on their stuff? Absolutely. Hey, I'm noticing this is what's going on for you. Is that really where you want to be? Okay, where do you want to go then? Okay, let's get that done. When I work with my clients, I say, okay, what are we celebrating today? And I have clients who say, Kimberly, I'm not celebrating anything. I'm like, that's awesome. What did you do well this week? Well, I did this. Well, I would call that a celebration, right? Because I want to have people coming from that powerful space of moving forward. So if you're communicating to somebody else and giving people feedback, make sure you're giving feedback that helps people move forward, not knocks them down. Okay, there's my little wisdom highlights for today. But when it comes to communication, again, you have to make sure that it's on the receiver understands it. So I said, as I'm, preparing for this and I sent my emails out, is one of the things I'm going to talk to you about is saying no. Okay. Saying no in your business, saying no in your life. I'm giving you permission to say no. And you know what? You don't have to have an explanation for a no. No can be a complete sentence, right? So I want to make sure that you have permission to say no. But what does that look like? So let me talk a little bit about no. So one of the things that happens is, you hear that, you've heard that saying, if you want something done, give it to the busiest woman you can find, right? She'll get it done because it's just one more thing on her plate. But I'm telling you, as the busiest woman, it's okay to say no. It's okay. And the reason why you want to say no, two main reasons, I should say. Number one, when you say no to somebody else, you're saying yes to you. You're busy. You have all kinds of things that you need to accomplish. You have relationships you need to build. You have kids you need to read stories to. You have husbands you need to date. You have friends you need to connect with. You have clients to call and get paid for services. You have clients to call to fix a problem that happens. There is so much already on your plate that when you say no to somebody else's offer, you're saying yes to all of the things that you need to accomplish and you need to get done. Have you thought of that? Saying yes to somebody is okay if you truly have the space to do it. If it's something important to you, if that friendship is really valuable to you, you could say something like this: look, I really, I don't want this to hurt our relationship, but my plate is really full. And if I add one more thing, what do you think I should stop doing? They're like, well, I don't know, but I really need your help over here. I need you to volunteer over here. This, that, or the next thing. Look, if it's really important and it's really important and you know that this is important for your relationship and your business and so on and so forth, then say yes. But if it's not, it's okay to say no and say, I just don't have the capacity to do it. I recently said to somebody, is like, you know what? I don't have the capacity to take that on. That's a project bigger than what I want. Right? Not because I didn't like the project, not because I didn't like the person, but because I knew that if I took that project on, I will look bad in the end because it's not going to get the 100% attention that I need to give it. And I think that is really important. Right? If I'm going to do something, I've noticed I've added some things to my life and I'm not giving it 100%. And I have to course correct that. And I knew that if I took on one more thing, it was going to be even worse. But when I do something, I want to give it 100%. So it's okay to say no, because if you can't give your best, it's better to say no. It's okay to say no when somebody's inviting you to a party and you're an introvert and you just are completely depleted and you need to make sure that you re-energize. It's okay to say no if you're an extrovert and your introverted friends want you to just stay home with them, or your spouse says, no, you can't go, but you really need to go because you need to get energized and you need to be around people. It's okay to say, no, I can't do that right now. I have to go take care of me. You see, it's okay to say no for the right reasons. Not out of guilt, not out of shame, not out of, oh my gosh, if I don't do this, then they're going to want me to do something else, right? Like, just say no because it's the right thing to do for you. Your family needs you to say no to some things, probably. And your business needs you to say yes to some things, probably. And your family needs you to say yes to some things, and your business needs you to say no to some things, right? If you're overexpending in your business, say no to the next opportunity because you got to get your spending under control, right? If you're overspending in your business, then say yes to more and more clients and say no to more and more expenses, right? I know it sounds like a great deal. Oh, if you buy this now, I got it. And you're going to be out of business if you overspend all the time and you're not bringing in enough money. And you're going to have a bad relationship with your community. You're going to build a bad reputation because you overcommitted to stuff, right? That's not what you want in your business. Now, this week we're celebrating 30 years of being in business, 30 years of being an entrepreneur. Who knew? Okay, I didn't start business to begin with to see that it was going to be 30 years or more, right? I started business to take care of my family, to be able to have the freedom to be with my family and take care of my kids on my schedule. That's why I started business. And then to provide for my family, to make sure that I have, the wherewithal to pay the bills, right? So I had to say no to some things so I could say yes to other things. And here, 30 years later, I get to share my wisdom highlights with you. So I'm going to wrap this up just to remind you all that, communication is important. There's multiple kinds of communication. You have to make sure that you're paying attention to it. If you're in a crowd of people that are excited and you have resting bee face, right? You know what I'm talking about, right? That's communicating something, right? Shift it. Pay attention to how you are, what your verbal and nonverbal communication is. How do people want to be communicated to? And are you making sure that they understand it? Are you emphasizing the wrong thing, right? Are you capitalizing where you're emphasizing something, or you're yelling at somebody, right? Like, what's the emoji you put on? Pay attention to all of those things because they all create a form of communication, right? There's auditory, there's visual, there's, all these different things that you can do to help communicate what it is that you need to say. So be with that person and understand where they're at. Make sure that they communicate back to you what they understood so that you both know that you're on the same page, right? Give feedback, but give feedback in a way that moves people forward, lifts them up, and if it doesn't serve people and it's just really, criticizing people, then let it go. Use the golden rule, if you have nothing nice to say, don't say anything at all, right? If you're need to give feedback that, feels like it's negative, make sure that you're working in the positive stuff too, right? Because when you're a business owner, you have to give feedback, through evaluations, performance, all of that stuff. You have to give feedback. And if it's not working out, you got to tell people why it's not working out. You have to communicate, right? And then how do you course correct that? So understand feedback is important when it's done correctly. Yeah. And then I'm giving you permission to say no today. Say no to what's not going to serve you. Say no when you know that it's not going to bring out your 100%. That way you can say yes to things. You can say yes to you, yes to your family, yes to your business, yes to the things that are most important for you. So I hope you took at least one little tip away from today. And if you did, feel free, share this video with somebody. Feel free to, watch it and give me your feedback, right down below. Tell me, what did you get out of today? Because I would love to hear about it here in the Hive Society. And if you know somebody who would like to hear some of these videos that I do every single Friday, right? Then do me a favor, please. Invite them to the Hive Society. We'd love to have them join us. All right. Well, I hope you have a great weekend. Don't get caught up in too many foolish things this weekend, but, take care of yourself. And I look forward to seeing you next week here in the Hive Society. Have a great day.